Hello, Living to Give. Amin here again, joined today by Nikita. Nikita, thanks so much for making time. So Nikita is the wife of my best friend, Philippe, and I'm really, really inspired by her story, and I think you will be as well. So who is Nikita? She's the founder of Kita, which is a community-driven lifestyle brand and creative network, which is celebrating wellness, culture, and design. She grew up in Hong Kong, which is a diverse island rich in culture, and she's also lived in Ecuador, London, and New York. And so, Nikita, I'm really, really excited that you're joining us today. As you know, I am not flexible. I'm probably the least flexible person you know. So I'm really curious to dive into yoga, what it means to you, and what it could mean for others and how it could impact them. So thank you so much for joining us today.
For sure. I'm happy to be here.
Is that the Freedom Tower behind you there?
That is. Ta-da!
Lovely. Yeah, nice, nice little view. So, Nikita, I guess let's just start off with how the heck did you get into yoga?
I started yoga almost 12 years ago now. I moved to New York. I was working in finance, and yoga was like my little refuge. It was a practice that helped me kind of get away from everything else. But initially, the way it started was it was just a recovery day. I was really into training back then and CrossFit and everything really fast. And um, I fell in love with yoga because it was a way for me to slow down and kind of integrate thought and body together. So
Hmm.
I don't know. That's how it.
So you've been doing yoga for 12 years. I mean, this seems like almost like before the Lululemon days. You're like an OG yogi almost.
I don't know. 12 years feels like nothing anymore. You have these like OG instructors who have like been doing it for 30, 40 years, their entire
Wow.
life. But yes, a big part of my life for sure.
So now I'm not familiar with yoga at all, but I do know enough to know that there's different styles of yoga. Is there a particular style that you gravitate towards most?
So when I first started yoga, I trained in predominantly vinyasa.
Okay.
And vinyasa, you could say, is a more athletic type of yoga. And that's probably why it attracted me at first. It tends to be a little bit more fast paced, but very breath oriented. And there's many different types of yoga. So there's yoga that's more restorative. There's yoga that has longer holds. There's yoga that has a much more structured series, and so it really depends on what you're looking for. That's going to drive you to try any different type of lineage. For me personally, it was vinyasa. I love how creative it is. I love how it brings components of strength, flexibility, mobility. And then over the years, I think I've studied so many different lineages that have, at our studio, the one we started in 2016, we kind of taught like a mix of everything and brought it into one. So it was definitely vinyasa based, but we like to kind of take from all the different lineages so that you're really getting a holistic and functional approach to it.
So this is your beautiful studio. Is this the one that's in Hong Kong?
The one in Hong Kong, yes.
Beautiful. So you were working in finance for how long until you actually transitioned and took this leap of faith?
About 6 years.
So you're quite successful in finance at a pretty large institution. Your story is almost very similar to my friend Brandon's, who you know, where he was working kind of in corporate America and decided, you know what, I'm gonna just risk it all and go into my passion. So what was kind of going through your mind? So fast, I guess not fast forward, but let's rewind, 12 years ago, right? What was going through your mind when you decided to take that leap of faith? I mean, how did your friends and family react? Did they think you were crazy? Or like, yeah, go for it.
Um, I'd say, yeah, most of my friends and family thought I was crazy.
Uh-huh.
But I think if you have like a well thought out plan and a clear vision, it really helps when you're feeling prepared to move forward with things.
Hmm.
But it was definitely a difficult decision because I was in a space where I was really growing in my career. And I enjoyed what I did. It wasn't like I disliked what I was doing. But
Hmm.
I think it's more so when you see where you are and you see the potential as to how you evolve in that space. I just wasn't excited by that. I wasn't excited by where that path would lead. And the type of things that got me wanting to switch direction were feeling like I wasn't adding value to people's lives. Even if I was in a very different way, it wasn't a way that was fulfilling to me.
Mm.
And I think I was always excited by the idea of entrepreneurship and building something of my own and creating something from nothing and seeing that evolve and how it has sort of a trickle down effect on many different people. And so it was, yeah, it was the desire to do something entrepreneurial. And then also the fact that I just loved movement, together with being able to do something for others in a meaningful way.
So you talk about adding value to people's lives. If you were to take your quintessential kind of like avatar, right? Like your ideal client, let's say, for lack of a better word, how do you feel like you're adding value to that person's life?
I mean, I can go through some examples as to what I've felt like has been really fulfilling for me. When we started the studio, we built a really strong community back home in Hong Kong.
Mm.
And you could just see that people had found a space where they felt comfortable, where they felt at home, where they were building relationships. Um, and this was all stuff that I used to find really, really fluffy when I was
Mm-hmm.
working back in finance. But there were moments where people would stay after class and have, conversations where they'd say that yoga had helped them through a difficult time. And that might not be the case for everybody, but it is for some, or that yoga had just helped them feel better. And that's really the point of it. It's about like longevity and about functional movement and about feeling good about yourself. And so I think a lot of times clients would share that with us and how it had brought goodness to other aspects of their life. So, yoga can mean so much. It can be a meditation for some people. It could be a way for them to pause and reflect and prioritize and declutter the way that their mind is. And
Mm.
and even if it is just a physical benefit, the fact that they're taking care of themselves, I think those are the main things that I would find. And the things that would surprise me is that when clients would write us letters as to how this had
Wow.
really shifted their lives, or had taken them through difficult times, which is so hard to see. And it was completely unexpected from my side. From my side, it was um, quite like directed, where it was like, this is going to help people with their physical health, which eventually helps you with your mental health, and improves your long-term uh, life, really. And it just, there was like these unexpected surprises where people just felt like they belonged to something. They had this like deeper emotional connection with the practice. And that was really definitely the reason why we still do what we do.
It almost sounds like your community came into this thinking, okay, we're going to learn about movement, we're going to learn about yoga, but really it ended up having all these positive externalities and like unintended phenomenal force multiplier consequences, right? So it's like, I feel like the three kind of big pillars are, how you move, how you fuel, and how you basically rest. And I feel like movement is the catalyst for all of these things, right? Because if you move, you're probably not going to want to fuel poorly, right? You're going to want to take care of yourself so you can keep moving
You'll be surprised.
smoothly. Yeah. And you're obviously going to be drained physically, and thus you're going to, recover well and be recharged in kind of this beautiful cycle. But I guess for you, like in your journey, what is something unexpected that yoga has brought to your life?
um, well, I guess it enabled me to start a business, and build a community for myself.
Hmm.
It was really empowering to be able to build a team of people that are so like-minded, and give a platform to the team to be able to create in a really free way and share with our students. That was really empowering, and that was something I didn't see when I started my practice, or didn't even um, think was what would be to come. So it's definitely been really empowering. Obviously, it was always an important physical practice for me, but it now is so much more than that. It's the philosophy behind it teaches you how to live your life, how to look at situations, how to shift your perspective. So even when you're starting a business, I remember when I first started out, I may be going on a tangent from your first question. The type of person that I was so outcome oriented that through the practice of yoga, I'm like, if I'm doing something with passion, then I need to start to let go of the outcome. Because when you have so many expectations, you start to lose sight of why you're doing it in the first place. So really questioning as to why you're doing things, and how to kind of flow with the situation better. So I'd say that you translate those, philosophies from yoga into your life almost.
I love that. I love that answer. I mean, it sounds like you're going more. I mean, I've had the struggle as well, right? Going from goals to more, I guess you could say, systems, but really, when you think about it, it's mostly just what fulfills me, what gives me life, and let me just lean into that and not necessarily like count. Let me just try to stay present and float in that moment.
Yeah, and having said that, still being prepared and having a strong plan, so that you're not like quitting your job and just moving into things without thought, but just being a bit more in flow of how things can go, and then reacting in a better way to situations, looking at things differently so that you have a better solution to things.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of times we're prisoners to our expectations rather than, like you say, obviously you want to have some sort of a skeleton, some sort of a plan, but allowing that fluidity, allowing those emotions to let you, be present and enjoy and really kind of soak it all in, if you will.
Yeah.
So, for, I guess, the entrepreneur that is thinking of whatever it is, starting a yoga studio or whatever it is, like, obviously, I'm sure you had a business plan. Talk about like maybe kind of the initial stages. What were your biggest fears, right? And then what are like some key things that are like non-negotiables, right? So maybe, I don't know, is a business plan necessary? I imagine it is. How the hell do you even assemble a team? And you build such a rich, powerful culture. Like, to me, when I talk to you, it's never like, we never really talk about, oh, I made this much, I made this much. It's, hey, I impacted this person, or, oh my God, it felt so amazing. Oh my God, I got this thank you note. Or, you're traveling, you're just have this abundant of joy. So I guess talk about like kind of the technical aspect, like starting off, like how to actually get starting and rolling. Because I feel like people have these self-limiting beliefs of, oh my God, it's so hard. Like I'm just not going to start. So can you walk people through what it takes and then kind of the magic moments of actually building a team and culture?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be challenging no matter what. So I think if you are going to do something entrepreneurial, be ready to move into something challenging, as you know. But I think a step-by-step process, and this was personal to me, being a numbers person and coming from that background, was to first build a financial plan and understand, what the measures are that you need to be looking at, what variables you need to consider, in terms of how you set your pricing, how you forecast what your target customer is going to be, and what your turnover is going to be like. And once you have a strong financial plan, you understand the questions that you're asking yourself, like what rent can I afford, and how much can I pay my team? And so those are the type of questions you need to be thinking of, and then build a plan to be able to answer those questions. What is my break even going to look like? How many years does it take to do that? What can I pay myself? So asking yourself those questions and being able to kind of have some sort of forecast to see what the first few years is going to look like, definitely put me at ease to know that what my deliverables were, and what my targets were. And once I had that for me was the most important, because I knew how many people I need coming in through the door, and what I could afford for rent and pay. So once that was understood, then it was like, what is the step-by-step process? What do I need to set up? What are the processes I need to put into place? How do I recruit people? And and then it's the execution part, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think a solid plan, building solid processes, asking yourself questions and setting yourself targets really, really helped. And then once you've got that, I mean, for me, my team was everything. So
Mm.
building a solid team and understanding how you can retain that team. And like most of the people that are on the team now were there since day one. And so making sure that you've got the people and the vision, I think are the two most important things to be able to
So
kind of.
is there anything that caught you off guard? That you know how they say like everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. Is there anything that really got you unexpectedly that you did not anticipate?
I wouldn't say it caught me off guard, but there were many things where I had to like learn as it was happening. Um, I was much younger when I started Kita, and when you're building a team, you sort of learn your own managerial style. And I think that was really important for me because I was quite liberal and wanted the team to feel really free in their own roles. And so I feel like I didn't have that sort of authoritative um, personality in the way that I
Mm.
manage people. And I feel like that was almost to my detriment because I
Mm.
wasn't setting targets for people properly or making sure I was very focused on their growth as an individual within the team because I really wanted to make sure it was a space where they could grow and feel rewarded. And so I felt like there were times where I felt like I needed to definitely put into place a few more just non-negotiables for the team
Like
where they could
structure, almost like just have some sort of structure, sounds like, or
yeah, for
accountability.
sure. And also be a bit more authoritative on certain goals and certain targets. Because I feel like that definitely made the team accountable. So making sure that we had like a review process for them, making sure they had KPIs that they had to deliver. So I think learning just my own managerial style throughout the process was important.
Yeah, I'm looking over at some books that I think are really powerful. I mean, you're almost like quoting verbatim, you know, good to great as well as
It's
measure
so
what
funny. I love
matters.
that book.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
there's another book called Measure What Matters. So for any entrepreneur or aspiring entrepreneur, you know,
I'm probably regurgitating it because I've read both those books and they helped me so much throughout.
yeah. So yeah, no, I mean, these are absolute gems that you're dropping, and I think any aspiring entrepreneur needs to know, like, yes, you know, be fueled by your passion, be fueled by your desires, to do what you love, but understand that there's also another side of it, which is, you know, you gotta apply some constraints and some sort of guardrails, right, to
For
keep
sure. And even though
everything.
you're doing something you love, you're always going to be doing things you don't want to do because that's just building a business. There are going to be, until you're super rich and just outsource everything.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so this is a good segue, right? So it's not all rosy. How has COVID impacted your in-person studio in Hong Kong?
Yeah. So, we tried our best, and I'm sure the people use the word pivot so much, I almost don't want to use it. So we tried our best to work with the situation on hand the best we could. And you learn things about your business in the process too. So we were really lucky where we had, cash within the business to, to use during this time so that we were able to pay our team and able to work on new projects in the time that we weren't able to operate our main offering, which was in-person classes.
Mm.
And we had built other revenue streams throughout building our business just to be able to diversify.
Mm.
So we had been working with hotels on their wellness programming and with different corporates to do their wellness programming. So throughout COVID, we decided to just work on other initiatives that we'd always wanted to work on. We had like a 1 year program that we did with a bunch of different corporates, and we're teaching from our own homes. The whole team was, so we were able to give the team work as well. And then we worked with this hotel to do their online offering as well. Other than that, we built our own online video platform. So even though we couldn't couldn't teach in person. We were recording from the studio, and we also launched our own little clothing brand. So just to be able to make sure that the team was engaged, still motivated throughout a time that was clearly not the best for any of us who teach in person.
Yeah.
And just try to create new streams of business to be able to generate revenue in that time. I know that one of the people on my team was like my best friend. We also decided to do an online mentorship program for new yoga teachers. And so we had a good attendance with that. And so we were able to continue working and sharing and keep the business and the brand alive during that time, even if we couldn't do things in person. So I said a lot of things, but to shorten that was just to look for new initiatives that could keep customers engaged.
Yeah.
And the team motivated. I think those are the two things that you needed to do in that time to be able to get through it. And then post COVID, and I told you this, we had an issue with our landlord who didn't want us to stay in our space, which was really, really difficult for us because we love our space. So what we ended up doing was we ended up moving into probably one of the best hotels in Hong Kong. And I don't love the hotel scene, but it's quite boutique, and they had this really beautiful space. And we moved into that space to be teaching in person from there. So, we tried our best to work with all the challenges that we had, and it's led to something good today because we've established our online platform and have subscribers on there. And that's our new goal, to grow that online presence that we can get to people on a more global scale. So
that's awesome. So you've still found a way to engage, to adapt, to be agile, and it all goes back to movement, right? Which is what we started the conversation with. So you get stopped, you get all these obstacles, and you stay in flow, I guess, right? You just keep moving forward. It just kind of reminds me too, just on a business note, that Mark Cuban, the famous billionaire, always says the biggest reason that businesses fail is just lack of managing cash flow. So it sounds to me like you were a very good steward. And I love that you just protected your people, and you were and that's why it's important to have these constraints, right? Like you could have went out and spent, like, I don't know, crazy money on art or decorations and just, not have those reserves. And I don't know if you want to just touch on that real quick and then we can segue to something else, just like the importance of having those reserves. And I mean, I don't know, like, did you lose sleep when this landlady or whoever landlord was coming after you?
I don't say it would lose sleep. It was definitely stressful because it then affects other issues. Like if you don't have that same space, like we also sponsor the visa of some of our employees, which is dependent on having that space and the same sort of job offering. And so it was more stressful, like the effects that it would have on everything else within the business. But in terms of that question of cash flow, I think there's a way to do it. There's different ways to grow a business, and I decided to do it with my own personal savings and then keep reinvesting in the business through that. And I think that, speaking of things that we didn't touch on this, but like things that I could have done better, I think, is investing more early on. So I didn't go crazy. Like I definitely was bootstrapping from the beginning and being more conservative with spending, not limiting myself, creating the vision I wanted, but being conservative. And I feel like if I'd invested more, and really growing through PR and marketing, and because branding, I think we kind of love that we built our own organic brand, but if we had like invested more early on, that could have shifted growth maybe. So, it's your choice on how you want to get funding and how you want to grow and spend. But I think because it was my first business and I was young, I wanted to be a bit more conservative with it. And also being a numbers person, being quite obsessed almost with what our numbers look like every month. And we were keeping on target with all of our measures. And so I think it's important to be that way, but then also on the other hand, know where investment matters and where you should be spending your money early on.
This is a really good lesson. I mean, one of my biggest failures is on the real estate side of things is, taking on a building and thinking, oh, we don't have to do all these investments up front. We'll just figure it out later. And then all of a sudden the plumbing acts up, the electricity, all these issues start acting up. And I'm like, ah, why didn't I just attack this head on? So
Yeah.
thank you
And
for,
sometimes you don't know. You like learn as you get into it. Um,
yeah.
so you want to make sure that you're like managing cash flow, but at the same time, spending where you feel like the investment matters.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like, especially when it relates to getting your story out there, the branding. I mean, look, ultimately, it would have maybe impacted more people, but no regrets. We are where we are, and we just take.
No, and if anything, we were really lucky that we grew so fast organically, and
Mm,
so we kind of wanted to ride that wave where everything was word of mouth, everything was organic, and it was almost like just really true, and you were getting the client you wanted to get.
hmm.
So that was really important to us as well. So you make the decisions you make, and then there's always things you can do differently. But
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I can 100% relate. Like, again, back to kind of real estate, like even on investor level, we're never gonna blast anything. You'll never see me doing any marketing. It's just
yeah,
family and
it's
friends.
just
Like,
not us.
yeah, exactly. Um, let's talk real quick about just like one more last struggle, specifically with your elbow. You had dislocated your elbow. What was it? Not doing yoga, rock climbing, I think it was.
Rock climbing, yeah, that was not nice.
So, what did you learn from that experience?
Um, I think it was almost like good for me because maybe it was just like again, I don't believe in like fluffy things, but it was just a great opportunity to slow down, like to come back and reprioritize maybe what I was why what what my goals were and why. It was definitely difficult because me being in New York, I mostly film for our online platform, so I couldn't film anything for a while. That really stressed me out.
Hmm.
So in terms of content, it was just like being strategic with getting guest teachers and making sure somebody else could create content while I couldn't. And so that was definitely stressful. And also when movement is such a big part of your life, like I train every day, and movement is so important to me, and to feel like you couldn't do anything, and I feel like a lot of athletes go through injuries, so they probably know better than me,
Yeah.
but then just like being with it, like getting the work to recover as fast as possible, but just understanding that that's the situation, and how you can best work with it, is really, and like, and working for the long term. So it was really hard to not get back into training as soon as I could. If anything, like I was walking on the treadmill with the cast, just so I could keep moving,
Yeah.
or like doing body weight legs with my cast. So it was really difficult, but it was almost a good thing,
Yeah.
to just like see how you could work around something that's uncomfortable.
Yeah, I just want to take a moment to say that you're absolutely crazy. You're someone that inspires me with your just energy. I mean, you're someone that is known to work out, I don't know, twice a day at least, sometimes three, I'm sure. You're always iterating, experimenting, and I don't know, I think it's just really cool that you're really practicing what you preach. And so if anybody's thinking about Kita yoga or something, like trust me, she really lives it, she's about it, it's like her life. And so I just really do respect that. I did want to ask you, what do you think is like the most memorable moment, let's say, in your time as a yoga instructor, let's say?
I don't think it was a moment specifically, but like a memorable feeling that still like makes me so happy. I mean, I went home like a few months ago, and I saw the entire team and reconnected with some of our students and community, and just to see what we've built in terms of the feeling that we've built and the emotional connection between all these people. I mean, my team and I are best friends. We're all planning to be together at some point this year, and I think that for me is the most important, that I built something where we built some like really genuine relationships,
Hmm.
and watching people evolve who've worked with us over time, I think was so important for me to know that I was able to like create this space where people could really grow into themselves, whether that's our students or our team. And where I also grew as a person, where I kind of learned how to be, as a manager, how to be a better yoga teacher. My practice evolved because of my teaching. And so I think it's not a moment, but the entire kind of process, the feeling it gave was something that, yeah, I'm never going to forget. So,
I think that's pretty cool how you take a big risk, not knowing 7 years ago the impact it could have. And now here you are, you've made amazing friends, lifelong friends throughout this. And, you've impacted probably, I don't know, dozens, maybe hundreds of people. So, and it's like thousands of miles away. That's unbelievable to me. So,
yeah. And every time, and the fact that, like, I teach online, and every time I see students from all over the world who still resonate with the way that we teach and our philosophy, like, there's nothing that beats that. And so that goes back to, like, if you're starting a business, know what your goals are. So, for some people, it might just be to make X amount of money, or um, have very stringent targets. And so just know what your goals are. And for me, the goal was building community from the beginning. And then that kind of led to other great things, whether they were monetary or, emotional. But my biggest goal was just build community, and I was able to do that. So
yeah. And now it's almost like feels like it's taken a life of its own, and you can just iterate and experiment and really just have fun with it, right? It almost seems like you're relieved of those initial pressures. So it's pretty cool. And here's the biggest lesson I take. I saw the founder of Lululemon do an interview on a business mastery course I took with Brandon, who you know. And Lululemon, from 0 to 8 years, nothing, right? So you mentioned the point earlier, Nikita, about long term. So you had the expectation in your mind that this is going to take a while. I do feel like a big fallacy and mistake that entrepreneurs fall into, especially with like all these businesses, coming up 3 months, 1 year, 2 years, blowing up, is like, oh yeah, it'll happen quick. We're talking about 7 years of hard work, of failure, dislocated elbows, and COVID, and shutting down studio, and pivoting. It's like, it's a journey, isn't it?
yeah, for sure. And even now, it's like you'll, like, in the first 3 years, it was almost like, I don't want to say easy, but you grow so fast. We grew like 300, 400%, in terms of like our community, our subscriber base, our revenue. Was like growing so fast in the first 3 years.
Mm.
And then you come to a space really like, oh, you have to continuously innovate and continuously think of how you can shift your offering and your business. So, at first you were only teaching yoga, and then you're like, okay, now we're going to teach yoga, Pilates, have
Mm.
guest teachers. Or at first our only business was teaching yoga, and now we have all these multiple different things that we do. And so as much as it is about passion, it's also about being able to keep your business alive and exciting, so that you can continuously keep offering to your community and continuously grow yourself. So yeah, I think it's important to understand that. And there will be moments which are more challenging than others, especially the middle moments, like when you've reached that like height of growth, and now you're like, okay, now we have to see how we move past this to grow further. Yeah.
Like when the business matures, you mean? Like,
Yeah, you've almost like, you need to find like a new growth cycle post that. And
yeah,
that, I think, is the hardest part. Especially when you have to go through like a global pandemic.
yeah,
Just in the peak of where you are, you're like, oh great, let's just come back.
that's tough, because maybe that catches you off guard. It's like, oh wow, I've come so far. Oh, it's going to be smooth sailing. But no, it's almost like you have to take the second wind, and here we go again.
Yeah, and then you have moments there where you're like, oh, is this, you start to question, you're like, oh, is this the right, am I in the right place? Am I doing the right thing? And then, to know when to stop might also be a trait. But if you really believe in what you're doing and know that you can continue to build great things, then you stay, keep pushing. So just knowing, like really knowing, in yourself, like what you're wanting to do, why you're doing it, and if it's truly fulfilling, asking yourself these questions continuously.
Yeah, I love how the why has always been the community. And I feel like that's the foundation of Kita yoga. And I'm really curious as well. Like, I feel like the toughest thing to do is when you're in the thick of it, you're up close and personal with all these challenges, like how the heck do you step out and have perspective on what to do? And I think you just said it, which is you just got to reconnect with the why, the purpose. Okay, why am I here again? What am I doing? What's the goal here? Right?
Yeah, just coming back to your vision, because if you lose sight of the vision, then it's like, what are you working towards?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what's cool is you have a vision that's big enough to support everyone else's goals, right? So you can almost like the rising tide that's lifting
Yeah,
everyone.
and you learn from everybody else on your team, and the brand evolves with everyone who comes into it. So
Absolutely. So final stretch here. I'm really curious, like, who is your role model? Who do you look up to?
it's gonna be cliche answer me. Yeah, for sure. It's my dad.
What's
Uh,
that? What has he taught you? What
don't
kind of
tell
wisdom has he
Philippe.
imparted?
um, he came from not very much. He wasn't even able to afford to go to college, and he's built something out of nothing, and is just so hardworking. So doesn't take no for an answer. Is just amazing, and he's kind at the same time. So I think that they've definitely. I mean, both my parents have definitely told me, how to be independent and how to almost like instilling a fear, which is probably not the best thing. This fear of like, just you just can't be average, which is horrible,
Yeah.
horrible feeling when you're younger. But yeah, just and I think for them it's like they work hard, but they're kind people, and so
Mm.
that's just inspiring to me.
But I mean, would you have it any other way, right? Like, would you want them to set a low bar, a low standard, right?
No.
That's awesome. So shout out to all the dads and moms out there that
Yeah.
especially the third world dad and moms that set very, very high at the time seemingly unrealistic expectations. So thank you, mom and dad,
Yeah.
for putting the fear of God in us.
I know.
Oh
It
my
worked.
God.
It worked. So
Absolutely. And now besides our bloodline, let's talk maybe about like your chosen family. Who's someone that maybe has given, right? This is living to give after all, has given you belief and kind of inspired you, especially in those moments of doubts. Is there a close friend that, maybe has given you that belief and helped you push through or inspired you in some way?
um it's so hard if I don't get to pick people who are super close to me. I mean, I think it's Philippe, you know?
Aw.
Yeah.
Philippe is,
It,
Nikita's husband.
Yeah, he's and he wasn't in the times before, but just someone who really listens and is always there as a support. Maybe not always offering a solution, but allowing you to look at things from a different perspective, or even just reminding you of the great things that you've done. Because sometimes you forget, and sometimes when you're uninspired, just someone to uplift you, remind you of what you're capable of, but also support you in your goals when you don't think that they're possible. Um, yeah, that's Philippe.
I think what I find fascinating about Philippe, and he says the biggest compliment you can give anyone is, huh, I didn't think about it that way. And he
Oh my
does have
gosh.
these unique perspectives and takes on things that really help you innovate and have these different ideas. And sometimes he does the hardest thing, which is to give you like harsh, candid feedback, and you get upset, right? I've seen
Yes.
it. I've
So
seen
it's
it.
not just me, it's you as well. Or
I've
are
seen
you
it.
talking about my reaction here?
I'm talking about your reaction, but yeah, I've also reacted adversely. But you know what? Those are the best friends, right? And it's so awesome and fortuitous that you have him as a life partner. I'm gonna also keep him as a life partner too, by the way.
Yeah.
Uh,
I feel like, I have amazing friends, amazing people. But I find that nobody gives me harsh feedback like Philippe does.
I
So
hope I
sometimes you
hope
need it.
I hope my wife is listening right now because I do give her very harsh feedback, and she sometimes adversely reacts, but I think later on she
You
realizes.
know, I read this thing that I just sent to Philippe. Someone had written it. I don't know if he's responded to me.
Oh, let's see.
So I said, I don't know, some random person wrote it. But some years back, my wife and I got into the habit of asking each other, do you want comfort or solutions when the other was having a bad time? That one sentence can save us from an argument 9 out of 10 times. So I sent that to him and I was like, just for you to know, next time I complain, like how the question you should ask is this so that we have a better, more productive conversation.
So one more time, do you want comfort or solutions? Is that what it is?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that's powerful. And I feel like maybe a big little gem or secret is, surround yourselves with those who will give you the real, the truth, right? That's tough to find today.
Yeah, for sure.
Everything is all dressed up. So
Yeah. And the people who care are the ones that are going to um, to even bother to give you that sort of feedback. So
exactly. Like I think of a quote that a good friend of mine, consider a sister, Carolyn, who was interviewed I think 5 episodes ago. She says the people that care don't matter, and the people that matter don't care. And what that kind of means, as it relates and applies to this, is like the people that care about what you're going to think about their feedback, like those people don't really matter,
yeah,
right? But to the people that like they don't really care what you think, they just want to give you the real, and they don't care the judgment, right?
yeah,
That's really who you want to be around you. Even though it's going to hurt you
yeah,
temporarily, long term it will serve you. It'll callous whatever that insecurity is, and fortify it and strengthen it, and you will have better foundation moving forward. And for me, Philippe
yeah.
has,
And eventually you want to grow as a person. So you need that sort of
yeah,
push from time
think
to
about it,
time.
right? Like even relating back to fitness, how do you grow a muscle? You got to break it down. You got to literally damage it.
I like these analogies
So we got to get damaged in order to
to move.
yeah, absolutely. Is there anything else I have not asked you that you would like to be asked, Nikita?
No, I think you asked me great questions.
Well, thank you. So I guess a little bit more about Kita. So you guys established in, again, 2016. You've got this beautiful, bright, and plant-filled yoga studio, which is obviously, second home to your tight-knit team and diverse student body. How many like nationalities would you say you all represent?
Between the team or
Let's say the team, like your team, and then all the
no,
yogis.
between the team already I have I can't count, but definitely more than 15.
Nationalities just on the team.
Well, because everyone's mixed race.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
And I think most people on the team are mixed race. So that, yeah,
Think about that. That's pretty
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
That's pretty cool.
So
And to grow that organically as well, pretty awesome.
yeah, we're lucky to be in Hong Kong. It's like a great place with lots of different cultures and people from everywhere. So
And at the time, if I'm not mistaken, yoga wasn't really mainstream. Was it a bit of a risk? Was it like some sort of early adopter vibe back then?
I think that there was like in Hong Kong, yoga is quite popular and was quite popular then, but what wasn't big is like these boutique studios that were really
Mm,
focused on um, building the student body to be like part of their network because
mhm.
they had these like big corporate spaces,
Cookie
kind of like
cutter,
a
like,
gym, but they had one specifically for yoga, and they still have it. It still exists, but it was just different because it was like 60 people in a room, which can be an amazing energy sometimes, but it was like people come in and leave. And so our this kind of boutique model of like having people come and stay after class and kind of develop more meaningful relationships with people was definitely not a thing.
yeah. And so I guess to kind of start wrapping up here, so you recently launched obviously your library of yoga, sculpt, meditation classes. So talk us through that. You're about to embark on this journey of recording high quality content. So you want to talk us through that and what we can expect from Kita?
Yeah, so we already have our online platform. A lot of more than like 150 recordings on there.
Wow.
some from COVID moments,
Dislocated elbow moments.
dislocated elbow moments. And we're just going to focus on continuing to grow that so that we can build our community all over the world. So yeah,
What is
hopefully.
your vision, if you don't mind sharing? Like what, like let's say, cliche question, but I don't know, in 5 years, what do you imagine Kita Yoga to be? What would your vision be?
5 years is a long time, but I'll say my dreams for today. Dreams for today are obviously to continuously grow our online community, and build it to a place where there's more conversation even online. So maybe we have such a global presence at some point that we're having events in all these different places where our subscribers are. That's the dream. So to be doing events and retreats around the world, and keep building our online presence through, building more innovative content for people to follow.
Love it. Well, in conclusion, I guess we have a few people to thank. First of all, thank you so much for taking the time and trusting us to hear you out and just kind of soak in all of your experiences and knowledge and struggles. So really appreciate you being open and vulnerable. Thank you to Philippe, both of our life partners, to putting up with us, and I don't know how we put up with him. Obviously to your parents who have struggled a lot, and it seems taught you invaluable lessons, and obviously to your team and close friends who just are kind of always there for you. So for anybody listening, it would appear that having a good environment, not just a physical environment, but the people that you associate yourself with, I hope that you can tell like how vital that is, right? Like really do an audit of who you're hanging out with. Are those people going to help you get to the next level that you want to get to? Is your why strong enough? Is it more about the money, or is it about community? It doesn't have to be community. I just think it should feel special and kind of magical, if you will. So with that, Nikita, where can people find out more about you? Where can we actually see some of your content and classes? And for anybody on the fence like me and old and decaying, where can we try to get more flexible?
If you want to take a class with us, you can find us online. It's kita-yoga.com, and you can click on Kita TV and it will take you right there. So it's free for 7 days, so everyone should try it, and you can always just cancel it if it's not for you. Yeah, follow us on Instagram. It's Kita Yoga HK, and you can kind of see what we're doing. We might have events, places, or I don't know. Oh no, I thought I was on mute. We might be hosting events in places or have online Zoom classes. So yeah, come find
Very
us.
cool. Very cool. I've seen,
That's our library of things.
yeah, and I've actually taken some of these classes, and admittedly, back then I was injured, so struggling through a little bit of the moves, but I think
There's something for everyone,
there is.
wherever you are.
There is. No, I think it's very well done, very well explained. I think there's a lot of intentionality behind it. And, I would encourage you guys to reach out to Nikita if you have any kind of questions. It can seem intimidating at first, but honestly, the energy that her and her team puts out is something very just welcoming. And it comes from a really awesome, loving place. And, should take a stab at yoga. It's going to help you with your mental clarity, with movement, and it's just going to give you a lot of things in life that you just didn't expect that are really kind of wholesome and positive. So with that, Nikita, thank you so much. I feel like we could have kept going on for a while, but we want to be respectful of your time. So love you very much, and hope you have a very good evening.
Thank you, you too.